Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Counselor's Office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and we are here to talk about our first ever dungeon contest mode. That's right, as you can tell, I have my contest emblem and the new remodeled icebreaker. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. Out of all the snipers we've gotten, I'm the least excited about this one, but I'm going to wait till we get the catalyst, and maybe someone's going to find a really cool stasis build that this thing can use in like GMs or something. But as it sounds, I just wanted to unlock it without actually having to grind for it. Mostly because I didn't know how I felt about the dungeon. I'm still kind of ruminating on it, and I'll do a video on it. But you guys are here not about necessarily the dungeon, but how I thought about the contest mode. Let's just say this outright. I think it is a little unfair that people who bought a dungeon, who have previously experienced dungeons, were able to play immediately in the past with their friends, their two friends, whatever, or solo. A lot of people do solo. And this past Friday, they were greeted with disappointment that they could not play the dungeon solo because it was contest mode. Now, I understand, just like raids, if they were to release it as is, people would figure out the mechanics and jump in and then fly through and have an easier time. I think a middle ground or dungeons, and this, by the way, this is different. Dungeons obviously are shorter, they're a little bit easier, less people have to micromanage than contest raids. This was very obvious to prep for the future when we're going to have one less raid a year, and so dungeons are kind of fit that contest. I think in this, they changed it to where instead of one team gets worlds first, it's the top 3 worlds first for dungeons. And what they did was, if you beat all 3, it unlocked, or 3 teams beat it, it would unlock the normal mode. I think that was a really bad idea. I think it's pretty shitty for everyone else. I think immediately, as soon as it's beaten by one team, all the people who paid for it, all the people who want to go solo, or the people who just want to play friends and they don't want to sweat on contest mode, they should be able to do that. I think it's pretty ridiculous to expect them to wait to play the game or the thing they paid for. I think that's a fair assessment. It's not like buying an expansion or even something that's free that you can give a pass. Like expansion, there's content they can continue to play with and then have access to it later. This is its own product. You bought the dungeon to play the dungeon, and I think it's pretty shitty for people out there who can't do that until 3 teams. I think a middle ground would be the first team to beat it. I mean, it's the first person, and they even try to say, oh, don't forget, there's actual placements. It's just the top 3 worlds first. You said it yourself, so who cares? Like, I'm just being honest. Now, when it comes to like the difficulty and the challenge, I think this was actually really well done. The challenge was there. They even did specials instead of just generic. Let's put some champions in there and let's just lower your level. They actually had some modifiers that were slightly new. They added a timer. They added a token system. There was a lot to really amp up the challenge and the concept of dungeon contest. I like the idea of revive tokens because it makes you think smarter. I hate the timer. So I will say I really did enjoy the first encounter of the new dungeon with the timer. It did make things have to, like, you had to really like get to it, but that's just me. I like the ecstasy rush. Like, oh, I got to get it. And we min-maxing and figuring out, like, I love that. But as other people who are just trying to dive into contest mode, they may fucking hate that. And I get that. And overall, I think it is very unforgiving having that timer. I think having an enrage is having 3 phases. I think for the final boss is a little egregious. because there's a lot going on in the boss. And it's so easy to die in the final boss. And there's like, you have to do a lot that I feel like you should be allowed to have 4 phases. Because if you die, like there's a lot of ways to die. There's a lot of ways to die during DPS. And just because you get 4 phases doesn't mean you're guaranteed to kill the boss in 4 phases. But I still think it's kind of a little egregious that Enrage is attached to 3. I know that's prototypical for raids, but dungeons, I don't know. You guys can let me know. I personally don't like that. But I like the token system. Again, that token system is cool. You know, it forces you to play smarter. You can't just recklessly run out and try to be a god. If you die, you're hindering the team. You actually need to have a kit that can handle. You're not going to be able to just throw on your LFG. This is my casual Wednesday. I'm using Thunderlord strat. I'm sorry. I know there's going to be a lot of casuals and blueberries and new players who are upset because their patrol zone, I'm using Erdgris bow, or I'm using what else could I think of? I'm using Tommy's matchbook. Like, sorry, that stuff needs to stay home. And I like it. I like that we actually had to think about it. So we actually had to put some effort into our builds. That's the point of Destiny. And it's one day. I think, well, 2 days. 2 days. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's okay to have 2 days. But I don't think it's okay to have to wait for 3 people to clear it. I think that's excessive. But 2 days makes it, I think this is, in my overall thought, Dungeon contest mode, is it is more accessible to complete than raid contest mode, especially for people who really want to get into contest mode for the first time. Dungeons are relatively easy. I actually ran with some dudes who said they just came back, and we went through everything besides the final boss. The final boss is like a stopping point for a lot of people. And I know there's a lot of cheeses out there. I mean, hell, my team took advantage of cheeses for the final boss. Like, if it's in the game, take advantage of it. And I'm not joking. Like, if there's a cheese, absolutely abuse it, because we've been abusing cheeses since Destiny 1 when we pushed Atheon off the edge or we unplugged Crota. Like, I'm not kidding. Abuse every cheese in the game because Bungie has made it known that it's on them. And there is a lot of bugs in this dungeon. A lot. There are times where the boss would snipe through a pillar, like the final boss, snipe through a pillar or an angle that he should not be able to snipe through. I'm like, the hell? There are things like the different emblems, the different, I forgot what, the different like suppressor and operator and scanner, those different debuffs or whatever the hell they're called, the mechanic icons. Yes, well, those would sometimes just disappear. You would dunk them and go get them. There was literally a time where I went in to, scanner was in, and I went to grab it, and it disappeared. So there's a lot of bugs. And there's also in the final boss in the tunnels where there's trip mines, there's one trip mine that has like a mile-long radius. It got so many double kills off me and my team. It was very frustrating. So when I tell you, abuse every cheese, do it, because Bungie releases buggy things every time. Every year, there's always just this nonstop, and it's getting worse, by the way. It's getting worse, and it's more noticeable because contest mode. I think dungeons are really noticeable of contest mode when there's bugs. Only the people that usually do solo flawless notices it. I'm just gonna skip to the next one. I don't know if this one is safe to play. There we go. It's very noticeable when you're doing like contest mode or solo flawless dungeons that there's a lot of bugs, and there's definitely a lot of bugs in this dungeon. So I would absolutely encourage you to take advantage of any cheeses. I'm not going to condone. I'm not going to like shame you, because it's a video game. Who gives a crap? And which goes to my thought process on like, I hate the contest mode emblem. Not because I don't think it looks cool. I hate it because it takes away it competes with the solo flawless. It's like, well, I've got contest mode, which is technically harder than solo flawless, but solo flawless is just you, and you can't wear both. And that's a thing. Like, I wish there was like a special emblem if you unlock both that shows that you did both, because you're competing for one or the other. It's not like you can wear all these different flawless day one contest mode emblems. It kind of sucks. It's like, well, I'm just gonna wear the contest mode one because it was harder. It was more of a challenge than solo flawless. Like, there's modifiers and things that solo flawless players don't have to do. So that it's a small gripe. It's not like, oh man, it's shaping it, but I don't know how I feel about it. For solo flawless versus contest mode, both of them are pretty prestigious from a veteran perspective. They're pretty prestigious. My general thought, I didn't care about the emblem. My goal was to just unlock the exotic. I think that's neat. I think the amount of effort it takes to beat something contest mode deserves a pinnacle reward, and guarantee that you get the exotic from the dungeon is like a cherry on top. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. I have no problems with that. I think if you've gotten to that point, you earn it. I think it's great. So that's my personal opinion, is absolutely give people the exotic. I'm not gonna like, oh, I work so hard for my exotics. Whatever. The contest mode is hard. If they give you a freebie for working your butt off, who cares? What else? What else do I think about contest mode? I mean, I'm glad there's no champions, because if they inserted champions, I would have just been pissed off, because we're so tired of champions just being dropped into hard content, and it's supposed to be hard. Man, wouldn't that be annoying? I think a caveat for some people, and I'm just saying based off other people who may not like the token system, I think earning tokens based on killing high level enemies, kind of like champions, but it's inside the encounters. I think that would be a fair change or something. Like, obviously you wouldn't have a lot, but you could accrue some tokens as a team, kind of like grandmasters. You can do that. I don't know. I personally am okay with the one token per person. It had some base challenge. I'm all right with that. Do I think dungeon contest mode is a appropriate substitute for raids? As someone who loves raids, I'm gonna say no, but overall I think it does a good enough job. Yes. I think I'm always gonna be like, hey, one less raid, that sucks. But statistically, there are more people doing dungeons than there are people doing raids. In fact, the big day, the release of Episode Revenant had less than there currently are now. People have, I'm going to show you, there are more people. This was up to like 80, I think, 780. There are more people on Destiny because of one dungeon. Remember, dungeons are a singular paid product that you do not have to buy the episode for. This number skyrocketed. It was like 50, 40. The last couple of days was it dipped into the 40s, but we're seeing it was up to 80. We're almost, see right here, 89. We got up to 89 because of one dungeon. And yet the launch of Season Revenant did not even see these numbers. Like, put that in comparison. You look back at like July, the final shape is still kind of going on. This is impressive for a dungeon. And it's also due to the fact that there is a contest mode for the dungeon. Contest mode for dungeons are more achievable for more players, and I think that's good. In fact, in the future, as much as I love raids and I hate that they're going away, if dungeons are part of the expansion that you're already paying for, I'm okay with that. Again, I hate it as a veteran. I love raids, but statistically, more people play dungeons. And this gives people more opportunity to try day ones or contest mode. I mean, it's not even day one anymore. It's contest mode because the prestige, like, I'll be honest. The only thing people care about day ones is on their raid report and whatever. And no one gives a crap about that. Only when you're trying to make sure you have people that are competent. But if you have contest mode on it, no one's going to give a crap. Oh, yeah, it's contest mode. Just because it doesn't say don't one doesn't mean they're going to do anything special. Like, I'm going to jerk you off because you have day one. And that's someone who has a bunch of day ones on his stuff. Like, just saying. If you complete contest modes, that's good enough, man. Be proud of your achievement. Don't let anyone water it, because there are some super 1%er elitists out there that try to diminish people's accomplishment. Oh, you didn't get day one. You got 40 hours, not day one. GTFO, man. Contest mode is contest mode regardless. So, like, nothing changes from day one to day two. Literally. Honestly, only like World's First is the most prestigious thing in the game. After that, you could wear whatever emblem and no one cares. Trials is not prestigious, no one cares. Competitive is not prestigious, no one cares. Wear whatever emblem you want, unless you're wearing a raid belt, or I guess now it's a dungeon with your name on it, dungeon jacket. No one cares. Which goes on to, who really cares about World's First? You just get a jacket with your name on it. Like, I could literally just buy the jacket and custom make it and like, hey guys, I did World's First. It's kind of funny. I'm sorry. It's kind of funny that they didn't do like any real effort to celebrate the World's First for dungeons. Outside of that, like I said, I like it. I like the contest. It was fun. There's some irritations for sure. I think it overall is a net positive for people to try contest mode. It is hard, and I will tell you guys, as I have said in the past, like with Pantheon and other day contest mode raids, contest is not meant for everyone. There are certain prestigious activities in the game that are not meant for every person. It happens once or twice a year, and it only happens a couple of days of that time period. And it is for the super 1%ers. Let them have their day. Stop bitching about it. I understand that you had to wait for 3 people. I'm advocating that we just go to 1 team for the dungeons. But outside of that, bitching that, oh, contest mode's too hard. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be a challenge. I also think that we should have contest mode as just a mode for the 1%ers to play with. But the reason Bungie doesn't want to do that is because then people can use that to practice and essentially just sneeze through content. I don't know. I'm assuming I'm putting words in their mouth, but we have yet to come up with a valid reason as to why we can't have contest mode on demand. We're supposed to kind of get some modifiers in the future. In a year from now, we'll have to wait to see how that pans out, because they say one thing and another thing happens. But for now, as we get it as it is now, I think dungeon content mode's pretty good. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. As always, I'm going to go get some... Actually, I got just some more recording, and I got to get prepped for my Brutally Honest dungeon report. Until next time, don't forget to game out. Huzzah.